Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with Astronomy Sim. In today's video I will be giving a brief basic guide on the night sky. So what I mean by this, I'm going to teach you how to identify a couple of constellations in the sky, how to find planets in the night sky, and going to give you some tips for when you want to go out stargazing. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe for more. Thanks and enjoy. One of the biggest things that you need to do when you stargaze is have your eyes dark adapted. This means that your eyes can see easily in the dark, and you can do this by going outside for about 15 to 30 minutes without your eyes being exposed to bright light sources such as a street light or any other bright light source from your household or nearby households. It takes around 15 to 30 minutes for your eyes to become fully dark adapted, and trust me, this will help you stargaze a lot easier. It's also best to try and find a really dark spot. So like me, in an urban area, it's a bit windy today. So like me, that's in an urban area with lights everywhere, my view can be hindered. But luckily in my area there isn't too much lights, so I can get a really nice view of some of the stars and planets at night time. With your dark adapted eyes and out in a dark spot, you may not be able to see where you're going if you want to move around. Now, the best way to have a light source without exposing your eyes to any bright light is to bring any type of torch or anything that can produce a red light. So such as this little thing here, this produces red light. Red light helps your eyes stay dark adapted, and you'll notice that most stargazers around the world do use red light, especially astrophotographers. And there are dark sky locations around the world where you're not allowed to use bright light, and red light is the only available light you can use. But definitely try get a red light torch for when you stargaze, because it will help your eyes stay dark adapted. If you can't find a red light torch, if you've got a mobile phone, some stargazing apps may offer night mode, such as I've got one called Night Sky, which you can get on the App Store for free. Such a great app for beginners and people that want to learn the night sky. That offers a night mode which turns everything red. And I believe there is other apps on the App Store or the Google Play, whatever device you've got, that do offer a option for red torch. This next tip is for mainly people in the southern hemisphere like myself, who is based in Australia. You'll notice that some things in the night sky, including the moon and mostly constellations, will appear upside down. Now this is completely normal, and the reason that this happens is because any object that lies near the celestial equator, which is the imaginary line that divides the southern and northern skies, would appear both upside down and reversed left to right. So in this picture here, this is a picture I took myself. This showcases the constellation of Orion the Hunter and Canis Major the Larger Dog, which I will get into those constellations later in this video. In this photo, they appear upside down, so if you were to flip this image the other way, that would be how you would see these constellations in the northern hemisphere. In the night sky, majority of stars are a part of what is known as a constellation. A constellation is a group of stars in the night sky, which the stars form together as an animal, object, or person, usually related to mythology. If you take apart the word stella, which means star in Latin, and then you can take Asian, like an organization, which an organization usually has a group of people. So therefore, stellar and Asian, you get constellation. if you want to put it that way. Knowing even one constellation in the night sky can allow you to find other constellations that you may not know of. For me, when I started with my stargazing passion, I never knew the constellations in the night sky until I found Orion in the sky. This allowed me to find so many more. I eventually found Taurus, I eventually found Gemini, Canis Major, and even Canis Minor, and several more constellations. Now, an asterism is different to a constellation. What an asterism is it's not a full constellation, but rather a group of stars that are in a constellation, or different stars from several constellations that form a pattern. Now, what I mean by this, I can give you a great example. The constellation of Ursa Major, which is the larger bear, which is mainly a northern constellation, but can be seen from some parts in the southern hemisphere. Not in my place, unfortunately. So, Ursa Major is right here on my globe. But you can see, this is what we see as the Big Dipper, if you've heard of that. So this is the Big Dipper asterism, which forms what is known as, well, everyone sees it as a saucepan, but it's not a constellation, it's rather a part of the constellation of Ursa Major. So, in a way, asterisms can
So in this diagram here that is poorly drawn, this is the same photo I showed you before. This is another asterism, which is known as the Winter Triangle. Now, this asterism isn't in one constellation, however, it is made from 3 stars in 3 separate constellations. So in the bottom left corner of the triangle, we have Betelgeuse in Orion. In the top of the triangle is Sirius in Canis Major, and the bottom right is Procyon in Canis Minor. The reason it's called the Winter Triangle is because this asterism is made up of the 3 brightest stars in the winter night sky, but however we can see them here in the summer in the southern hemisphere.
In the night sky, there are a total of 88 constellations, which some are dim, but some are bright. But in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of them, and they're some of the main ones that we most commonly see in the night sky, and some of them that we usually go for. Like
one of the most well-known constellations in the night sky is Orion, the Hunter. This constellation has many unique stars and is filled with nebulae. To start out hunting Orion in the sky is to locate a common asterism found in Orion, which is known as Orion's Belt. This asterism consists of 3 bright stars that are all in a straight line that make up, well, you guessed it, Orion's Belt. Knowing this simple asterism can allow you to trace your eyes towards different parts of Orion, including the famous Messier 42, the Orion Nebula. This nebula is a very popular target among all stargazers and is one of the brightest nebulae that can be seen with the naked eye. Orion has some many unique stars, but one of my everyone's two personal favorites is mainly Betelgeuse and Rigel. Betelgeuse is more popular. Betelgeuse is the big orange star at the top left of Orion. Betelgeuse is a red supergiant star, and if you were to put it where the sun is, or in the center of the solar system, it would engulf everything up to the orbit of Jupiter. Betelgeuse is also a variable star, which means its brightness can vary over time, so it can be dimmer at sometimes, and sometimes it can be bright. The star's also expected to go supernova soon, which in about 100 years or so, or longer. Once the light reaches us, it will be a spectacular sight, which it will even be visible in the daytime. Rigel in the bottom right corner is usually the brightest star in Orion, and is a very hot white star. But once again, Betelgeuse can be brighter, since Betelgeuse is a variable star and its brightness can make it brighter than Rigel. And also forgot to mention that Rigel is also the 7th brightest star in the night sky. Now, to mention, I'm going to use the help of Stellarium, which is a free PC software which gives you a full augmented view of the night sky. So if you do have a PC, I recommend downloading it. I will put the link in the description for Stellarium. To mention as well, Orion in the southern hemisphere starts to come out around September, where it'll be usually in the early evening of the night. It will be low in the eastern sky, but as it gradually gets towards December, it will start being a bit higher in the eastern sky, start going a bit northeast, and then through January to February kind of starts going a bit north in the sky, and eventually in May it will kind of set off into the northwestern sky and west. So if you are viewing, so first of all, if you want to find Orion, you want to, most likely if you're in the southern hemisphere, you want to check what month it is, of course. So my best time to probably view it is around December, January. That's when it is high in the sky, and when it is higher too, since it's not in the lower atmosphere, a lot more light can come through into your eyes, which you can see a lot more of Orion. So right now, this is recorded, it's January, about mid-Jan. It's starting to go into the northern part of the sky. This is Orion here. The moon is out, but it is overcast, so it's not really a good night to stargaze. But yeah, so I'll explain how to find it in December, January, because it's probably the best time to view. But of course, if you are in September, October, it will be in your eastern sky, and March, April, May will start being in the northwest sky in the southern hemisphere. So first of all, if you're in December, you want to locate Orion's belt. This is probably the easiest way to find Orion, by finding Orion's belt. So if you look towards the northeast sky, you'll eventually see these 3 stars. This is Orion's belt right here. So once you look at that belt, you're pretty much looking at Orion. Now you're probably like, okay, now what? Well, from here you can obviously trace lines. Now that's another good tip with stargazing, is it's always good to use your imagination and trace out the sky with your fingers. It can help you get around. So let's start with an easy target around. Let's go for Betelgeuse, which is right there. So it's pretty obvious how to find it, but what you want to do to find Betelgeuse in the southern hemisphere is look towards the most, from our southern perspective of course, is find the most furthest star to the right in Orion's belt. Now this star is called Alnitak, and right next to Alnitak actually is 2 nebulas. There's one here where my mouse cursor is, that's the Horsehead Nebula, and then there's also one here which is the Flame Nebula. So from Alnitak you can draw a line going straight downwards. You should reach the bright red star Betelgeuse. Also to mention too, you can pronounce it Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is usually how everyone says it though. Now the next target we can find in Orion is the Orion Nebula. Now this is one of the most brightest nebulae in the night sky and is a common target upon most stargazers, and you can see it with your naked eye. To the naked eye, it may just look like a fuzzy dot, but if you do have a powerful enough telescope, it's truly an amazing sight what you can see. Now the best way I do this is always,
I use either Alnilam, which is the middle star on the belt, and I just kind of draw a line kind of going up to Rigel. So if you can go from Alnilam, draw a line up to Rigel. See, if you want to find Rigel as well, you can do that. Now if you kind of go into the center of your line and then draw an imaginary line to your right, you'll notice these three brighter stars here. Oh well, they're dim, but now you'll notice that it's three. This is also another asterism called Orion's Sword. And if you look in the center, the middle star, well, it's not a star and it might look fuzzy. This is actually the Orion Nebula, which is shown right here. Messier 42 Orion Nebula, which also has another nebula here too, which is called the Demirans Nebula or the Running Man Nebula. But this one here is such a beauty to look at with a telescope, the Orion Nebula. Another great feature of the Orion Nebula, if you are using a powerful enough telescope, even just like a 6-inch or just under that, I've got a Newtonian reflector on an equatorial mount that's about 5.5 inches, so that's just parallel. But yeah, if you've got a powerful enough telescope like that, if you are looking at the Orion Nebula, you'll be able to see a star cluster that is in the heart of the nebula called the trapezium. The reason it's called the trapezium is because, well, the 4 stars that make up this star cluster form a trapezoid shape, and it's a pretty cool cluster to see that in a nebula that's about 1,000 light years long. There's these small stars in the center. They're really bright too, if you can manage to get a powerful enough telescope to see them.
Canis Major, the larger dog, which represents one of Orion's hunting dogs, is also a well-known constellation because it is home to the brightest star in the night sky, named Sirius. Sirius, also known as the dog star, is a bright white star that is also a part of a binary system. This means it has another star that orbits it. The orbit of these two stars could look like they are playing a game of tag that is going on forever, which the game of tag is going on in a circular motion. The other star that orbits Sirius is known as Sirius B, but commonly nicknamed the Pup.
Now to locate Canis Major and Sirius, we're going to use our knowledge of the constellation of Orion to trace our eyes towards Sirius, because that's probably the easiest point to look in Canis Major to find the constellation. So if we use here, for example, we're going to use Orion thanks to my Stellarium app. Oops. There we go. So what you would want to do first is once again locate Orion's belt and go to find Alnitak, which is the star furthest to the right of the belt. Once you have found this star, you should be able to trace a line going sort of diagonal to a star that's right here, but it's also adjacent from Rigel. This star here is called Safe, which makes up the bottom left corner of Orion. And you can probably see where we're going to go from here. From Safe, you can pretty much just draw a straight line going right until you reach a really bright star, which if you reach this star, that means you'll be looking at Sirius, which is in Canis Major. Now some of the other features of Canis Major, like the head, is these stars that make up the head of Canis Major are really dim, but don't worry because Sirius is probably the most bright feature there, and it has some other cool stars too to look at, but Sirius is definitely a cool star to look at.
This constellation is mainly for my southern viewers or people in the southern hemisphere, so feel free to skip ahead. But otherwise, the constellation of Crux, or better known as the Southern Cross, is one of the most well-known constellations in the southern night sky. The constellation is also found on the Australian flag. Ironically, even though Crux is only found in the southern hemisphere, it is also located towards the south part of the night sky. The Southern Cross resembles a lowercase t looking cross, with a smaller star located towards the bottom right of its cross. This is an easy constellation spot, as it is small and most of the stars are decently bright. Two notable features of this constellation is it has one beautiful star cluster and one nebula, which the nebula is called the Coalsack Nebula, which is a dark nebula, and it resembles, well, coal. It's just a black cloud, that's why it's called the Coalsack Nebula. And the cluster in it is called the Jewel Box Cluster, which is a beautiful open cluster of stars. Now, locating the Southern Cross, aka the Crux, is pretty easy and you'll almost find it instantly. All you really have to do is just look towards the southern sky, sometimes the southern east sky if you're in the early night, but yeah, generally towards the south. And all you really want to do is look out towards a T-shaped group of stars, which look like this. And this is the Southern Cross. You'll also notice that if you do look in the general direction where the Crux is, you'll notice these two other stars. Also, you can find, if you do notice these two stars here, it's also a very good way to find the Southern Cross. These stars are called the pointers, but most commonly this is Beta Centauri and this is Alpha Centauri, which is also a star system. Similar to Sirius and the Pup, these stars orbit each other, but I believe it's Beta Centauri also has a star orbiting it, so it makes it a triple star system. This star is called Proxima Centauri, the one that orbits Beta Centauri. Proxima Centauri is the closest star to the Sun, and is very similar, but it is smaller though, and it does have exoplanets orbiting it. Which exoplanet, by the way, is any planet outside the solar system. And also, the Alpha Centauri system is also the closest star system to Earth. Also, these stars are called the pointers for a reason, because these point directly in the position of the southern celestial pole, which is another thing a part of the celestial sphere, which I won't go into detail. But if you do want to know how to find it, all you have to do is draw an imaginary line from the top star in the Southern Cross to the bottom star and keep going forward. And then also from the pointers, you can draw like a line between the Alpha and Beta, and in the center draw a line going straight forwards. Once you make these lines meet, from the line going from the center here and the one going from this end to end and forward, you'll eventually notice that it does. Oh yeah, that's the right one. You'll notice that it does go to the southern celestial pole, which is just the part of the sky that doesn't really move at all. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, there is a star called Polaris, which is the bright star in the constellation of Ursa Minor, the smaller bear, and it pretty much stays right near the northern celestial pole. But we don't really have a north or a south star, if you want to say, in the southern hemisphere. But as again you can see, if you draw a line going forward from that, and then from the pointers, when they meet up, when the lines do meet up, that's when you know that you've kind of found the southern celestial pole. The constellation of Taurus, the Bull, is one of the 13 zodiacal constellations, which the other 12 include Virgo, Capricornus, Libra, Gemini, Pisces, Aries, Sagittarius, Scorpius, Aquarius, Leo, Cancer, and Ophiuchus. Taurus is well known because it houses two star clusters known as the Hyades and the Pleiades, and houses a supernova remnant known as the Crab Nebula. Taurus is easy to find as well as it is situated right next to Orion.
Now, when locating Taurus, it's easy to find if you're going to look for Orion, because Taurus is pretty much right next to Orion. In the southern hemisphere, it appears to the left of Orion, but it's in the northern, it's on the right. But I will be explaining it from my southern perspective. So, what you want to do first, the way I find Taurus, is basically first I locate the belt. Orion's belt always helps me locate just about anything that's close to Orion. So what you want to do is you want to look for the furthest star on to the right, Alnitak, which it's called. But instead of going upwards this time, we're going to draw a line downwards. So trace your eyes towards downwards until you reach the star Betelgeuse. From here, you can pretty much draw a line going straight straight towards the left. So if you go this way, eventually you'll reach another big bright red star, and you'll notice it probably has like a V sort of shape. This is the Hyades star cluster, which actually makes up the head of Taurus. Now the Hyades is actually the closest star cluster to Earth. Don't worry, it's still like 150 light years away, or something like that if I'm correct. But it is the closest star cluster to Earth. The bright red star here is Aldebaran Alpha Tauri, and it is a really big star. I think it's, if I'm correct, I believe it's bigger than Betelgeuse. But yeah, it is a red supergiant star, and it's pretty much the bullseye. Now, also in Taurus, you can never look at Taurus without looking for the Pleiades. One of the best ways is kind of, now the Pleiades, actually I'll show you where the Pleiades first are. So the Pleiades are just here, so kind of to the bottom of the Hyades. So this is the Pleiades right here, made up of 7 bright stars, and also surrounded by a nebula, which I think they call the Maya Nebula or something. But basically what you can do is, if you find the V shape, you can kind of trace your eyes towards the middle star on the bottom here, on Taurus's head, and kind of draw a straight line downwards until you see these stars. Now these stars can be hard to see if you look directly at them, so this is where your use of peripheral vision can come in handy, and it's good for stargazing. So kind of try not look towards it, but look kind of to the side of it, and kind of just use the corner of your eyes to look at it. You'll notice a better view. But of course, if you're in a non-light polluted area, it may be easier to see. But yeah, the Pleiades are a very well-known star cluster, and definitely one of my favorite star clusters to look at. They are just gorgeous. Now some basic knowledge on a couple of constellations in the night sky. I'm going to come to my next point and teach you how to identify planets in the night sky. Finding planets in the night sky can be easy as long as you know what one thing is: the ecliptic. The ecliptic is an imaginary line in the night sky that all planets, the moon, and the sun seem to fall upon and move along. Also to mention that all zodiacal constellations, all 13, lie upon or lie near the ecliptic. The ecliptic is, if you imagine the solar system, it's like pretty much just a disc shape. We're pretty much just seeing that disc shape from our perspective on Earth. But pretty much any planet, the moon, or the sun will fall upon the ecliptic. Finding the ecliptic can be hard and easy, but you can do this at night or day. If you want to do it at daytime, it can be better with the moon out, but if you want to find the ecliptic in the daytime, all you really have to do is trace the path of the sun throughout the day from where it rose and where it sets. If you can trace the line from where it rose and to where it set
that will be your ecliptic. If you want to find it at night, once again, this can be easier with the moon out. This is how my sky will appear this morning, around 4 o'clock. The moon will be low in the northwest sky, and Venus and Jupiter will be out in the roughly the eastern sky. They'll just be rising. That means I'll just be over there. That's my eastern sky, right in front of my window. One way you can do this is, once again, kind of, oh, I lost the moon, there it is. You can kind of trace a line from the moon to these things, these two planets. Also, the way I know how what orbit they're gonna take. Well, since I said all zodiacal constellations orbit upon the ecliptic, you can see here. Now, once again, this may require some actual knowledge on the zodiacal constellations, but you can see we've got Scorpius here, we've got Libra here, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, and Gemini. They all fall upon that line. You can see they kind of match up from the moon to Venus and Jupiter. From there, from there, back there. And also you can even put, I forgot where it is, but yeah, you can put an option on for the ecliptic. Stargazing apps do have an option for the ecliptic, so it does show you where it is.
Once you have found the ecliptic, you'll notice that any bright dots you see on it, well, you'll notice there are bright dots on it. Some of these bright dots are going to be planets. Now, there are 5 planets that you can see with the naked eye, which these include Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Mercury, I actually have not seen Mercury myself, but usually it can appear early in the morning sometimes. But I believe, if I'm correct, it'll probably appear kind of like a dim white dot or orange dot, but that may be wrong, so don't take my word. But usually the most iconic planets is everything but Mercury. Venus usually will appear as a bright yellow dot in the night sky, even sometimes in the early evening sky, or for me right now it's the early morning sky at around 4. Venus is also the brightest object in the night sky, and pretty much it even outshines the brightest star, Sirius. So yeah, and with a powerful enough telescope you can actually see the phases of Venus. Yes, Venus has phases like our moon, how it goes into one in crescents, waxing gibbous, etc, etc. Venus does the same. Mars, if you're looking for Mars will appear as a red dot. Usually there are orange stars, but Mars is usually like a bright red. With a powerful enough telescope, you'll be able to, if you've got enough power in your telescope, you should be able to see the polar ice caps of Mars, as well as some other surface details. Jupiter, which is right now in the early morning for me, but can also be in evening sky or midnight, usually around winter for me, but I don't know what it is in the northern hemisphere. Jupiter usually appears as a orange dot, so try not get confused with some stars, but you'll notice it pretty quickly. It won't be like still, it'll be moving pretty quickly. So Jupiter will appear as a bright orange dot upon the ecliptic. This is also preferably bright as well. It is brighter than Saturn, which I'll get into in a minute. With a powerful enough telescope, with Jupiter you can see its cloud bands and even the Great Red Spot if its positioning is right. But one of the most iconic features that you can see with Jupiter with a telescope is its 4 Galilean moons, which consist of Io, Callisto, Europa, and Ganymede. Saturn will most likely appear, usually appears as a dim white hazelish dot. So this one can be a bit harder to find, but sometimes you'll notice it, but yeah, it's usually a white hazelish dot. Usually mostly yellowish hazel, but sometimes it can appear whitish. With a powerful enough telescope here, you'll be able to notice detail in its atmosphere. You'll be able to see the rings of Saturn, and if it's powerful enough, you'll may be able to pick up the Cassini division, which is a big gap that is dividing a couple of its rings. And even if you can see the Cassini division with your telescope, you should be also should also be able to see its largest moon, Titan. You may not see as much detail. Maybe you can. Sometimes some telescopes can pick up the actual color of it, but most of the time it will appear as a big dot near Saturn. Unfortunately, Uranus and Neptune are pretty dim since they are so far out. Some people can see Uranus with the naked eye, but most of the time it is invisible to the naked eye. But you can still use telescopes and kind of use the help of stargazing apps like Stellarium here to help you locate it. Same with Neptune. Neptune's definitely too dim to see with the naked eye, but Uranus for a telescope would appear as just a kind of like a turquoise colored dot, and Neptune a dark blue colored dot. Well, there you have it. There's some quick tips and some facts about some constellations and how to find them, as well as how to find some planets. If you found this long video a good one, please be sure to like it and subscribe for more future content. Once again, my name is Sam, aka Sim with Astronomy with Sim. Keep your eyes up on the sky. Peace.